Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. So Joe Rare, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story. Our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go all the way up to today. And we want to talk about the amazing things that you're doing in terms of teaching people and helping people take their lives to another level.
Sound good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate you having me.
Thanks for being here, bud.
Yeah. You got it.
So where were you born?
A town called Antioch, California. So Antioch, California, it's in the East Bay. And like just, outside of, well, I guess east of San Francisco. And then my family kind of lived around that area for a while. And then we moved to a small town called Rio Vista, which is in the Delta of, just kind of basically north of the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's cool. So did you go to high school in Rio Vista?
I did 2 years in Rio Vista. Then I moved to Roseville with my dad to finish high school and finish high school there. And then from there, I went to a couple of years of college at UC Santa Barbara.
Okay.
And dropped out to start a business.
Man, it's beautiful up there.
Yeah.
UC Santa Barbara is one of the prettiest campuses and one of the most beautiful locations.
Yeah, it really is.
So in the area of East Bay where you grew up, what was your favorite thing about growing up there?
It's a small town. So the town I grew up in had about just under 3,000 people when I was a kid and I was there. So really, really small town roots. My stepdad was a police officer. My mom was a waitress. Like you kind of know everybody.
Yeah.
It's easy. You get on your bike and you can be to anybody's house. But it was that small town community feel. And I say that now as a kid, it probably wasn't the thing I liked the most.
Yeah.
But looking back, it was something that all of the experience we had was because we were in a small town and we were able to do all of those things. And, we were right on the Sacramento River. So we fished, we went out on boats, we went to the beach, we did, all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of outdoors, lots of agriculture and ranching and all that too. So
amazing how hindsight's 2020, right? You didn't necessarily appreciate it at the time, but now looking back, you're like, wow, that was cool.
Absolutely.
There you go. So in high school, growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
It's so funny. It took me until the past couple of years to actually understand who that was.
Yeah.
I could say in high school, my basketball coach hands down had the most influence from kind of that moment in life forward. He was really, really influential. But as a young kid, I didn't realize that there would be one person who would have a level of influence that I didn't recognize until literally, I'm 40 years old.
Wow.
I didn't recognize it. And it took actually doing podcasting, getting asked the question, and then somebody who was really good at kind of digging actually got me to understand. And so there was a gentleman in the town that I grew up in, Rio Vista, who was obviously very wealthy. He used to take me and his son, who we played sports together, he used to take us to Oakland A's baseball games in the middle of the week. And it was always fascinating to me because he could take us in the middle of the week and my parents had to work.
Right.
And everybody else's parents had to work, but he had the time off. And I didn't understand why until later. And it was like, oh, it's because he owns the biggest businesses in town. That's why. He's wealthy. He can do that. And so that stuck with me. And it was always like, well, I want to be like Jim, like I want their lifestyle, and that stuck with me. And so, through high school, that's always been a thing where you could see, okay, the families who have freedom, they have time. That's what I would be after as I grew older.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's awesome. So in high school, it sounds like your favorite sport was basketball.
It was. I was a better football player than a basketball player, but I loved basketball more.
So what position did you play in football?
All the way until I was a senior, I played quarterback,
Yeah.
which then I was a point guard in basketball. But I played quarterback all the way until my senior year. And that's actually kind of a funny story. I played quarterback all the way through my junior year. And during my junior year, after the football season, kind of during basketball season, a kid transferred into our school. And I'm 5'11" today. I was 5'11" then. And so he transferred in. He's 6'3". He's, 190 pounds and I'm 170 pounds soaking wet.
Right.
He can throw the ball a mile
and
I can't.
Yeah.
And my capability was my legs. I could run. And so everything we did for me as a quarterback in high school was always a rollout pass because I was too short to see over the lineman.
Right.
And so it was always a rollout pass. It was always like, throw it if you've got it, otherwise run it.
Right.
And that became our philosophy. And I had a really decent year my junior year, and I had all these plans and aspirations for I was going to be a great quarterback my senior year. And then this kid moves in and I hear all the talk, he's going to be the quarterback.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, summer ball comes around. I don't even get a shot to take a snap.
Wow.
And I was really upset. And so coach sees that I'm upset. He pulls me in and he says, I just promise that if you just trust me through this, you're going to enjoy your senior year better than any year you've had.
Wow.
And I said, all right, I'll trust you. And, up until that point, quarterbacks don't play defense. They don't play special teams because they can't get hurt. So here I go into my senior year and I start playing, the slot, and I play wide out. And for anybody who doesn't follow football, sorry.
Yeah.
So
it's okay. They're receiver positions. It's okay.
Yeah. So they're receiver positions. And I was pretty decently fast for a 5'11" white dude. And I ran a 4.4, low 4.4. And so I had decent wheels. And during summer ball, caught a ton of passes, had a lot of fun. And I'm like, okay, this could be fun. But I also got to play defense for the first time in my career, which was fun because I got to play safety. So now you've got all these new responsibilities. Well, then the season comes around. First game of the season, I have an amazing game receiving because the quarterback's actually solid. Played defense, lots of tackles, an interception. It's awesome. I'm also the kick returner. I'm the punt returner. I'm the punter. I hold extra points. Fun stuff. This is a blast. Our tailback, which we had one, blows out his ankle.
Oh no.
And we don't have a backup.
Oh,
so
no.
coach says, has anybody ever played tailback? And I was like, well, kind of. I mean, I can do it. Yeah. And so I became the tailback for game 2 on for the season. Wow. And we just ran these really interesting, we called it a floating offense. And we basically ran out of the backfield, a lot of passes out of the backfield.
Wow.
And I broke the school record for most touchdowns in a season. I was, an all conference player, blah, blah, like all these things came about. I ended up the MVP of the team. And what was amazing was how influential I became on the field.
Yeah.
Way more than I could have been as a quarterback because I played all special teams and everything. Yeah. And so, so I ended up being a tailback my senior year at 5'11", about 180 pounds. So that was.
You ran a 4.4?
I ran a 4.4. Yeah. 4.41 was the fastest. I ran it at the Nike Combine just before my senior year. Ontario Smith, who was a known name in Northern California, he ended up playing at Tennessee and then a couple other schools. He beat me by a nose.
Wow.
And he was lightning. Yeah. But yeah, I had a really fast 40.
Yeah.
I can't do it now. My knees are shot,
I got you.
But dang.
I got you. But man, that is fast.
What's crazy though is seeing kids now, they're running 4.3s like it's nothing.
Yeah.
That
kid Xavier Worthy at the combine, ran a 4.3, I think it was, or 4.4, went back and ran a 4.2.
Sure.
Did it over again.
Yeah. And so, a couple of the things that I love is the innovation and the technology advancements that kids have today. I joke. So my nephews are both in high school. One of my nephews is a junior. The other one's a freshman. And I laugh because they're really good. They play out in Oakland. They're really good. But I joke because I'm like, you can only catch the ball because of those sticky gloves.
Right.
And I'm like, we used to do this. like lick our hands. And then that was the best you got.
Yeah, that's
the
it.
gloves that you had, if those things got wet on the grass or if they
You
got
were
sweaty,
done. Yeah.
slippery.
Right.
So
exactly.
I joke with them all the time. I'm just like, you guys can't catch without them sticky gloves, man.
I love it, man. So how much fun is it watching them?
It's cool. You know, unfortunately, we live in Montana. They live in California. We don't get to see them a lot, but I watch tons of their videos from my brother-in-law and my sister. So, but it's cool because the game's changed.
Yeah.
The game's faster, even at the high school level, than it ever was for us.
Yeah,
we ran on grass.
Yeah.
Only the super elite rich schools had turf.
Right.
We had grass. Like you run the right sideline, you know, there's a dip and if you don't know that it's you're falling down. Right. And it was like, and when it rains, that's going to be the puddle and you better know it. And so stuff like that, kids don't have that. They have these perfectly crowned fields.
Yeah.
They've got, you know, there's just so many advances that have happened that I think also support the kids in getting, you know, slightly faster times. They've got a little bit more grip when they're running, you know, things like that. It's like, did they mow the lawn well enough for us?
Right.
Or is it just that little bit longer? You know, all those little things that they barely have to pay attention to anymore.
Yeah. And the type of grass too, right? The type of grass even has an effect on it. So it's like
100%.
Yeah. So I'm actually the voice, the announcer in the press box for my kids' alma mater. They're high school down here.
Yeah.
And we actually have a game day after tomorrow.
Sure.
Home game. And I'm in my 12th season doing it. And I have such a great time. I have such a great time doing it, you know, and it's unbelievable how much faster and stronger and advanced they are than we were when we, you know what I mean? I mean, I never ran a 4.4, but yeah, I mean, dude,
the strength behind these kids today, their agility, the training that they have access to that we didn't really have, you know, it was, all of that kind of indoor training, all of that extra training was just beginning when I was getting out of high school, you know, and I watch these kids and I'm just like, man, from the time they're 7, 8, they're in consistent training mode. Right. And now, I mean, we're doing the same thing. I have 2 daughters, right, who do competitive cheer, and it's like the tumbling and the gymnastics and the cheer, you know, and the stunts and all that stuff. Like that's what my kids are into now. And it's like, I'm doing that stuff for them, but it was, man, it would have been awesome if I had it.
That's cool. I have 2 questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, more than that, but just these 2, right? So first of all, did you enjoy your senior year, your senior season, like your coach said you would?
It was the best season. Yeah.
Awesome.
It actually almost made me pursue football instead of basketball. And so, during the football season, I actually told my basketball coach I wouldn't be playing.
Yeah.
And that I was gonna actually pursue playing football. And my best friend in high school, who I happened to live with during my senior year, he told me, you got to come out and play. We're the only 2 returning players. You've got to come out and play. And so I said, well, it's not going to hurt me to stay in shape. And like, you know, basketball's, you know, that's great shit.
Right.
So I said, all right, that won't hurt me. So I'll play. And that season ended up being my favorite season of anything that I ever did. And so that's when I was like, all right, maybe I will play basketball in college.
Yeah, there you go. Why was your basketball coach so influential to you?
Who he was, what he said, how he said it, how he connected with us on a level that didn't have anything to do with sports, but he communicated through sports to get to us.
Okay.
And his level of standards were so high that the level of tolerance for how we could act as people, hands down, was better than anything I'd ever experienced. It wasn't the way my parents were. Yeah. So, you know, just the way we had to carry ourselves throughout campus, right? He had a super high level of respect for girls, for, you know, unfortunately, girls, you know, kind of can get boys into trouble, right? We were flat out not even allowed. That's one area. We had to dress proper. We had to communicate properly, right? Our language throughout campus always had to be on the up and up. It wasn't us communicating in illegible, like, what the heck are you even saying?
Right.
And not swearing. if you talk back to a teacher, you're going to get it.
Right.
And you're not going to like practice for the next couple of weeks. Cause
Mhm.
like, you're going to, you couldn't go out and party. I mean,
Yeah.
the kids on our team, we didn't drink soda. We didn't
Wow.
drink candy. We didn't do things like, cause we needed to be in great shape.
Yeah.
And so it was him tapping into some of those things that we just didn't have as discipline, even at home. And that carried me. I mean, it's still, I think back today when I say something to my kids around their athletics and I'm like, oh my gosh, how would Gary have said it to me or Coach Donnell said it to me?
Yeah.
That's the impact that he had.
Yeah. And that's, I talk about for a second how that was sort of a launching pad for you in life, because I feel like it's something that's missing, right? There
my gosh.
there are coaches, there are like the coach of the team that I announce for. Okay. Love him. He's been on our podcast, one of the most world-class people you've ever met in your life. And he's just like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He has standards and you have to rise to those standards, right? Or you're not part of the team. You're not part of, right? And I'll just talk about for just a second. I know this isn't about coaching and all that,
No, it's fine.
But I feel like it's incredibly important for people that are listening to know how that has affected you as an adult, because like, I know how my coaches affected me, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, and what they're, I had a coach that was a champion, national champion, big time, one of the best in the nation. And he was people thought he was one of the grumpiest people on the planet, but he had incredibly high standards.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
once you got a chance to understand where he was coming from, then you got it. Right.
Yeah.
But until you got it, you sort of, as a kid, you resisted it. Right.
Yeah.
And it was true that when you were on his team, everybody on campus knew it.
Yes.
Because you carried yourself differently.
Yes.
Right.
And
talk about that for a second.
An interesting thing is that to this day, when I go home to California to visit and we go see friends and family and stuff, people who played for that coach, you can spot them a mile away.
Yeah.
You know exactly who they are.
Yeah.
So we still get together. We play in basketball tournaments. We do things together. You know who the players were who played with Coach Donnell, hands down. The way they carry themselves, their professionalism, who they are in the community, who they are in public, who they, how they are with their families. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good line. You can look around and see how people ended up.
Yeah.
During my senior year, one of the challenges we had on our basketball team is we had 2 players on the team, which would have been a team of 10. Mm-hmm. We had 2 players on the team who decided that they wanted to party, and they got caught partying. And there's only 3 seniors on the team, but 2 of us were returning.
Right.
So me and my best friend, both of us kind of played point guard, and we both kind of just fed off each other, played the 1 or the 2. The coach came to us, the 2 of us, aside and said, you guys have a decision to make. You know what our policy is, and you guys get to choose what we do with these 2 players. So Justin and I have the opportunity.
Wow.
Right? That's pretty.
Wow.
So think about, as a 17-year-old kid putting somebody's future on the line. Like, we get to make the decision about their future, which is unbelievable. But the act of letting us level up to that kind of sphere of responsibility, mm-hmm. it changed everything moving forward. It changed who we ended up becoming within the school, within the sports programs, to faculty.
Yeah.
They got to understand the level of respect that we were held to from our coach. And so we actually decided, then we took it to our team and said, hey, here's what we're thinking. And we ended up kicking the 2 kids off the team. So we had a team of 8. And I don't know if you know anything about basketball, but there's 5 people on each side, offense and defense.
Hello.
We couldn't practice. So we had to, coach had to play, and our trainer had to play every single practice.
Yeah.
And we ended up going to section finals. We played at, what used to be Arco Arena, and it was amazing. We had an incredible season, won our championship through our division and all these things. It was amazing. Got to play against some guys who played pro for a while. So it was really, really exciting. And we did it with 8 players.
Yeah.
And it was pretty wild.
And you did it with an attitude and with respect
For sure.
that you wouldn't have had if he hadn't put you in that leadership role, right?
That's right.
That was one of those, you owned that deal.
Yeah. And one thing that we were required to do was, before every game, you get called out onto the court and you have to run out there and you give high fives to your team and everybody cheers and all that stuff. As soon as our name was called, we didn't go to our team.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go to the referees.
Yeah.
Go to the referees, shake their hand, shake the other coach's hand, then go through your team and let people cheer you on.
Right.
But we had to show respect to every single person around. So how does that play into life in general as an adult? The simplest thing about respecting other people and walking up to them, shaking their hand, showing yourself as I'm a respectable member of the community. I am a respectable person within this business, this company that you're in.
Right.
I'm a leader and I'm here to show you.
Right.
But also having the ability to serve others.
Mm-hmm.
On a team,
deal.
It is not just you. There is nothing about you. Like one more story and then we can kind of move on, but
okay, go ahead.
It's so
I
funny.
love it.
So I learned a hard lesson my junior year. In hindsight, everybody came up to me afterwards and they were like, why'd you get in trouble? So there's a ball going out of bounds and I'm running down the court and I reach out for it with one hand. I grab the ball and I throw it behind my back and throw a dime pass to the coach's son, by the way, who gets a wide open layup. He immediately yanks me out of the game for showboating, right? And because could I have grabbed the ball and thrown it across the front of my body? Probably. Instinct, I just threw it behind my back. So for whatever that's worth, he yanks me out of the game and he tells me to sit at the end of the bench. And I walk down to the end of the bench and I'm pissed and I'm all hyped up. And I kick the bottom of the bench, like on the gym, how they pull the bleachers out. There's that bottom one that kind of flips to unlock it. Yeah. So it flaps if you kick it. Right. And I kicked it and it erupted in the entire gym. Everybody hears it. He grabs the wet towel that's on the floor for us to wipe our sneakers on. Yeah. He grabs the wet towel and he throws it in my face in front of everyone. And then all I did is sit down. And I was like, you know what? That's on me. That was 100% on me. Yeah. And it was the one time when I was like, wow, he won't stand for it. Yeah. And I was like, and it was funny. And the best part was, I think, is that, the crowd could easily today, oh my God, that coach abused him. And he was so,
oh yeah.
No, you know what? Every parent in the entire gym knew exactly why it happened and that I deserved it.
Right. You earned it.
That interesting perspective that I've had to carry with me my entire life is understanding when life kicks me in the face, am I willing to eat my stuff and go, okay, I'll eat crow. That was on me. I did that. Yeah. Right. That's why life kicked me in the teeth. Yeah. And it's been helpful to understand, to humble myself, recognize my downfalls and the things that I fail at. And so many lessons. I mean, I can go on forever.
Isn't it fascinating?
Get me all hot thinking about it.
Isn't it fascinating how all of that prepares you for life? Right?
It's
that was your launch pad.
It's unreal. And I keep watching my daughters and I go, oh my gosh, they're only 9 and 11, but there's moments of impact that are going to carry forward into whatever their high school years are or their college years that are then going to be the leap pad. Right. And so I just keep looking and I'm trying to be strategic in like, who do we want to surround them with? Yeah. What type of friends with other parents and, and all these things. Yeah. So we're really very cognitive about that specifically.
Yeah. I was just having this conversation with my 24-year-old daughter, my youngest, last night. Yeah. And we were talking about, so one of the things that's sort of weighing on my heart right now is parenting. Mm-hmm. And how important it is that parents are purposeful, that they're dedicated and they're committed to helping their children to succeed.
Yes.
And how important it is that there's a dad and there's a mom.
Yes.
And the dad and the mom have a united front, because just like when you kick that bleacher, right? Yeah. Kids are going to challenge you. kids are going to challenge your values. Those things are going to happen. The last thing in the world you want is to have a divided front between mom and dad. Dad has a certain role, mom has a certain role, and their job is to carry it out.
Yep.
It's when people expect, as parents, for the world to raise their children that we get into trouble.
100%.
Right?
And I think what used to happen was that coaches were a huge middle ground,
Yeah.
especially for kids who didn't have it well at home.
Right.
And, you know, and I think that coaches were a huge buffer in that, and they could provide enough guidance to get kids moving forward. But
Yeah.
even now, if a coach puts his foot down and calls something like it is, he's going to have phone calls for days, and he's going to have to talk to the school board, and it's just like, okay, but the parents aren't going to parent at home.
Yeah.
And now the coaches can't step in and support the child.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the greatest things you can do is give your kids boundaries. Like,
Yeah.
guess what? No,
Yeah.
you don't get that. No, that's not how it works.
And back up the coach, right? Back up the teacher.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Be there as the stopping point where
Yep.
you have, again, that united front.
Yep.
Right? Because when you start criticizing that coach and you start criticizing that teacher, you start criticizing those people in front of your child, you give them permission to do the same thing. And that, I believe, is dangerous.
And what's interesting is when you say that, a kid criticizing a coach, I think about how my parents raised me, and with all the flaws and what did and didn't work. One of the things that was non-negotiable in our house is the way we respected other adults.
Yeah.
So you like, we weren't allowed to really complain.
Yeah.
You can't complain. You can't bitch and moan. Why? Because somebody's got it worse than you.
Yeah.
And
guaranteed.
And no matter how lucky you are, or, you know, gifted you are, or how much money your family has or doesn't have, there's somebody way worse.
Yeah.
And so while you're sitting here trying to be disrespectful to somebody else, somebody's got it way worse than you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just, yeah, it drives me crazy. Today's youth, again, parenting is lacking at a gigantic level right now.
Yeah, it's all about standards.
Everybody needs to go back inside their own four walls and start to clean house and start to clean that up, and like create children who have respect for everything outside of them.
Yeah. So my kids and I are really close. I've got a 24 and 25-year-old. But when they were growing up, I told them, I said, listen, my job, God gave me a job, and my job is to prepare you to go out into that big, beautiful world. Okay. And you're not going into that world to be raised. You're not going into that world to be a burden on society. You're going into that world and you're going to leave it better than the way you found it. You're going to be a leader.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I told him, I said, you're not going to agree with everything that I decide. You're not going to agree with everything that I do. And they would love to tell me, oh, so-and-so's parents don't do that. So-and-so, right?
Yeah.
I'm not raising them. I'm not raising them, period.
Yeah.
Right? I'm raising you. Okay. And I told him, I said, listen, after you leave this house and you go off to college, we can become best friends if you want.
Yeah.
Right now, we're not going to be.
Yeah.
I'm going to be your father. Okay. And we were very clear on the standards. We were very clear on what they had to do. I ended up talking to a gentleman who's the chief of staff of one of the largest hospitals in North America for over an hour about parenting. He had 11, 13, and 15-year-old at home. And my children were grown at the time, right?
Yeah.
And the entire time that I talked to him for over an hour about parenting, all he said was, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. You use the Socratic method to raise your children. That's brilliant. Well, yeah, but it takes effort.
Right.
Okay. You have to be passionate about this. You have to be dedicated. You have to be committed. You have to be a dad.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to say no. You have to be willing to back it up. You have to be willing to back up people in authority. Okay.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, whether you think they're right or you think they're wrong, you have to be willing to be that backstop.
Yep.
Period.
Agreed.
So anyway, it's obviously a sensitive subject with me, but I'm glad we had a chance to
right now.
talk
I think
about
it is all over the world.
Yeah. It's just, it's when you find people like you You're a treasure, by the way. When you find people like you who have experienced what you've experienced and then taken that and carried it into. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.